Well, in keeping with this delightful spring day, I'm pleased to report an extraordinary result on the Westpac Consumer Sentiment Index for October. The index was up 11.9%. That means over the last 2 months, it's been up a total of 32%. That's the strongest since July 2018. And indeed, it is now 10% above the 6-month average that we had in the index before the COVID pandemic. So why is that the case? Well, I think there have been 3 reasons. The outstanding reason, of course, has been the response to the Australian budget. Secondly, ongoing confidence in the way that Australia has been able to contain the spread of the virus. And thirdly, expectations that the Reserve Bank is going to cut interest rates next month. Firstly, on the budget. Since 2010, we've run a question which says, has the budget improved your finances? And for every year, we've had a majority of people saying, actually, no, it hasn't. It's deteriorated our finances. And the average net balance has been minus 29%. So it was a great surprise when, for the first time, in all the time we've been asking this question, we've seen a positive result. And now, by a net balance of 9.5%, more people are now positive about the impact of the budget on their finances than negative. Interestingly, 21.9% positive for men and a slight minus 3.7% negative for women. The index was up across all the states, but the outstanding result was New South Wales, up by 17.5%. And I think that what that's telling us is that the people of New South Wales are very comforted by the fact that the economy remains open, and although we are seeing some cases every day, the prospects for the New South Wales economy are improving. We also saw a 13.5% jump in confidence in Victoria, and I guess that's indicating that Victorians are expecting that the reopening in Melbourne is imminent. And of course, if that gets significantly delayed, then we will probably see quite a substantial correction in that lifting confidence in Victoria. All the components of the index were in very strong positive territory. The one that stood out for me was the 14% jump in the question about the outlook for the economy over the next 5 years. That's the strongest we've seen since 2010. And I think that's a very strong vote of confidence in the budget. That respondents are saying that the foundations that are being set by the budget are going to provide sustainable strength for the Australian economy. We also saw a 14.2% jump in confidence around job security. That's the best we've seen since 2018. Quite frankly, that came as the most welcome and the most surprising result, given the concern around the fiscal cliff and the impact on the labour market of the scaling back of the JobKeeper package. We've also seen a very, very strong response to the outlook for housing. The question, is now a good time to buy a house, up 10.2%, and now back to the levels that we saw back in mid-2019. There was strength right across the states, and surprisingly, we saw considerable strength in Victoria, along with 11.7% jump in New South Wales. So once again, the Victorians are looking forward and expecting to see that reopening of their economy and anticipating that with quite strong responses in this survey. Finally, we saw a 31.5% jump in house price expectations. That index is now only 17% below its pre-COVID levels. The strength was right across the states, but the really outstanding strength in terms of confidence about house prices at the moment is in Western Australia and South Australia. Not surprisingly, those 2 states are the ones that have been most successful in dealing with COVID. So in terms of the indexes around the housing market, that's given us some comfort with regard to our very strong forecast that we've given on the outlook for housing over the last month or so. You'll be aware that we're expecting to see house prices in 2022-23 lift by around 15% across the nation, including 20% in Brisbane, 14% in Sydney, 12% in Melbourne. The board of the Reserve Bank is set to meet on the 3rd of November. Recently, we forecast that the Reserve Bank board will decide to further cut the cash rate at that meeting from 25 basis points to 10 basis points. Also cut the target for the 3-year bond rate from 25 basis points to 10 basis points. And the term funding facility, which is 3-year money, which the bank gives to banks and other deposit-taking institutions, to cut that from 25 basis points to 10 basis points. We believe that will have an impact upon the markets and will also have an impact upon mortgage rates. Last week, the Reserve Bank Governor released a statement, and in that statement he talked about easing monetary policy. He also talked about how the markets were now pricing in a rate cut. Those factors give me a lot of confidence that we will see that rate cut on the 3rd of November. And indeed, that's one of the factors behind the strength in the survey today. So this extraordinary result today, very much dependent upon confidence in the budget, and the best budget response that we've seen since we've been measuring that response for 10 years. Those levels of confidence give us great encouragement that the strength that we're seeing in the Australian economy at the moment can be sustained. Indeed, last week, in response to the budget, we raised our forecast for growth in the Australian economy for 2021 from 2.5% to 2.8%, and for 2022 from 2.7% to 3.5%. So this survey today is likely to be setting the foundations for a stronger Australian economy. The support of very low interest rates and fiscal stimulus are likely to be sustained for a long period to come. Thank you.